how to deal with people who are skeptical or even outright critical about a family's decision to homeschool, because a lot of people are coming into homeschooling and then they have to deal with these family members and friends and even complete strangers who are questioning them and commenting on this decision.
Yeah.
So why don't you start off and share how you dealt with it over the years, and I'll chip in like I always do.
So yeah, you put it into three nice groups there. So we can start then with people that we are intimately connected with, like grandparents and family members. And I think that that's the trickiest one, because there you can't just be, harsh and offhandish with them, because, grandparents next to you love their grandchildren the most, and they are genuinely concerned. There might be anomalies to that, but in general, they are very concerned about their grandchildren's future. So, we had our fair share of criticism in the early days, and both of us started homeschooling before it was an accepted thing to do. It was very, very swimming upstream and very unusual. And at least with lockdown and today, there is a much more sort of fertile bed of acceptance, but there's still that concern. And one of the things that we did is that there was a time that we had to tell one of the grandparents, this is our decision. Please stop trying to undermine it and let us get on with our business. And if you can't say anything good, rather just say nothing at all. But that was just a specific season. But in general, it was trying to pull them into our world, let them be part of outings, let them share their skills, let them read a book, let them see that we're not going to raise socially awkward, inept, uneducated children in whatever way that we could. How did you deal with family members who were less than welcoming?
I was actually very blessed in that my parents felt that I had researched this and they thought, all right, I can do it. With my in-laws, they wondered how I would manage with little toddlers, because I started with my stepdaughter first. But it was within a year or two, they could see this child is learning, and they were not sold out on the school system in the first place. So it was easy for me to win them over. But with other parents that I've spoken to, I've also given them the same advice as you, just to tell the grandparents that you appreciate that they are so concerned about their grandchild's future, but that you believe that this is the best decision and you've researched it and you're happy to try and find answers to all their questions so that they can understand this decision, and remind them that the schools today are not the same as the schools that they put their children into in a generation past. And if they still stay antagonistic or critical, then you have to do, like you said, you have to actually just set a boundary and say, well, we respect that you wouldn't have made this decision, but you have to respect that this is our decision, and please support it if you can, but if you can't, then it's not open for debate. Yeah. And just be kind, because you want to maintain that relationship. You don't want to, destroy the, so you don't want to destroy the family relationship over a decision that you don't agree on. And so, the point is just to try and educate them. And with most families who've had this struggle, I've seen that within a year or two, the grandparents have kind of been won over because they've seen that the children actually are learning. So you've just got to be patient with them until they reach that point. And another point that somebody raised is that the grandparents also need answers to give to their own peer group. Yes. They'll go to their bridge afternoon or their bowls club or whatever it is that they do, and people say, oh, what school is your grandchild in? And the other grandparents are boasting about where their child is or what they're learning or whatever, and then these grandparents don't really know what to say because they're not well informed about homeschooling. Yeah. So you need to maybe, without being blatant about it, just actually give them information that they can use in that kind of situation so that they've got something interesting to say in that kind of a conversation as well.
Yeah, that's a lovely point. I really do like that. And then in terms of brothers-in-laws and sister-in-laws and brothers and sisters, you can take the same sort of line with them to be inclusive and that sort of thing. And I think that we could possibly deal with that in terms of the next category that you raised, with family friends, close friends that you have as a mum, and they choose to go either government or private school, and you've now chosen to homeschool. And I remember quite a few situations in our own sphere where there was a bit of cattiness from some of my friends who had decided to put their children into schools, and it was hurtful to me. And it, because you're dealing with your own inadequacies and feelings of, oh, am I going to actually get this right? And dealing also with your background in schooling, like, that's what school looked like. What does homeschooling look like? You're talking about in these young years where you're still trying to establish yourself as a mom, as a home educator, and then to have that sort of negativity come at you from a friend who you love and you trust. I eventually figured out, and you can add your bit here too, but I figured out that they were actually responding out of almost a place of feeling judged for not being with their children, for not wanting to lay aside their day to home educate. And it made them sort of respond out of that place of judgment. Did you find that sort of thing happening?
Yeah, I also felt that some people felt that because you're not choosing school, you're actually saying the school system is bad. And now they've got their child in that system, and they, like you said, they feel that you've judged them. And so attack is actually their way of defending themselves, defending what they've chosen for their family. And so I found a very effective way to relieve that horrible, stressful situation was just to diffuse it by saying, homeschooling is not for every family. We feel this is the best choice for us, but we understand that other families will make other choices, and that's also good for you. And then they don't feel that you've judged them. They feel a little bit more accepted, and then they don't need to attack to defend their own choice, their own position.
Correct.
So, and again, over time, they would look and see that our kids are socially all right. They seem to be learning stuff, and they became more accepting that there's just different ways of educating children, and we do it this way and you do it that way, and it didn't ruin the friendship, which is the important thing.
No reason to play judge and kind of measure children against each other and families against each other. I've seen parents fail spectacularly at homeschooling, and I've seen parents fail spectacularly in schooling, and like vice versa, I've seen homeschoolers excel and school children excel. We have to kind of carve out that path, and I think that if we're inclusive and accepting of their choice, it'll show them the way to go with our choice.
So the thing is, the warning is, don't go and school bash and give all the reasons why you decided school's not good for your child, because then you actually they feel you're bashing what they have chosen. So be tactful and sensitive to their insecurities and where they're at.
Yeah, very good advice. And then obviously the last group that you mentioned was, let's put them all in the others. So we can put it from the cashier at Pick and Pay all the way through to the health professional. We had situations with health professionals, occupational therapists, in fact, when our second child had been very ill as a baby and he needed OT. And they kept on telling me that this was the worst thing that I possibly could do. I'm not a trained professional. And I decided then to just cut that relationship with them. But I asked them for a home program, and I went and we did the home program to help our son, and he's absolutely fine. But I just realized that toxic influence all the time would be undermining me and then putting stress on my children, because I would feel like I had something to prove to them. So that's quite an intimate one. But in terms of the cashier or just somebody at a park, or how do we answer those flyby critics?
I think there are different strategies, and it all often depends on how much time you have. my goal always is to look at this as an opportunity to just sow a seed and to try and educate somebody and show them that they maybe are prejudiced and that they can learn something about homeschooling. So I would, like the most common example is they'll say, well, what about socialization? Or don't you miss your friends? And they will say, well, we actually are involved in our community. Our kids do sport, and just give them that information that they need. But yeah, sometimes if people are really antagonistic, like, healthcare professionals, and I often see it in the media where these professionals who have no experience of homeschooling are consulted. And I think it's journalists that are trying to bring a balance. So they interview a homeschooler and then they interview a non-homeschooler who's apparently an expert. But that person obviously only knows the school system, and they don't understand how home education accommodates children and the things that they need to develop properly. So you've got to just let it fly over your head, because they don't understand homeschooling. And so they're actually speaking from a place of ignorance. Even if they're experts in OT or remedial therapy or whatever it is, they are not the expert on your child. And you've made the choice that you think is best. And none of us make that decision lightly, because it's a big responsibility. So we've got to just learn to trust ourselves.
Absolutely. And if all else fails, you can kind of just smile and wave. You don't have to engage with everybody on the topic.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to just walk away.
Absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. Well, I hope that it brings encouragement. And if people are interested in our take on socialization, we do have that video that we shot a couple of days ago or weeks ago on socialization and the difference between that and what it is to have social activity, which is one of the biggest things that do come up. Well, talking about smiling and waving, we can say goodbye, and we'll chat again soon.
See you next time.